Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now here are your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I got to experience all this stuff at K-State, and it's all I've ever talked to our players about. I don't tell them about anything other than I'm just telling you, I want you guys to experience what I've experienced. Being a part of this tournament is something that sticks with you for the rest of your life.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we come to you tonight from the Mason Jar in Manhattan, in New York, corner of Park and 30th, where a bunch of Gamecock fans have arrived tonight to support their team tomorrow. Let's hear from these Gamecock fans.
All right. Studio audience.
There are
Man.
A bunch of happy Gamecock fans, including members of the Gamecock Pep Band. They are here tonight at the Mason Jar. They worked hard today, man. They had to play their instruments for a good 45 minutes. Gamecocks were having their shoot-around inside Madison Square Garden this afternoon. We've had a full day. Frank Martin has had a full day. It's his birthday, number one. He turned 51 today. He was on Good Morning America this morning. He was on the Dan Patrick National Radio Show today as well. And then he had media at Madison Square Garden, and then a walk-through, shoot-around kind of thing for his team. All the teams had to do that, meet with the media, and then do a shoot-around of about 50 minutes inside the Garden. So it's been a very, very busy day here in New York. Glad we are here, and we can bring you right to the Big Apple. And, you know, this is such a huge place. A lot of things get swallowed up in this city. Mm-hmm. A few things don't. World Series don't get swallowed up. NBA championship games, Super Bowls, you know, big NFL games, and the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament does not get swallowed up by this city. It's a buzz around here. People are excited about having these four teams in New York, and it all begins tonight, guys. We've got the Sweet 16 unfolding tonight, Michigan and Oregon, West Virginia, Gonzaga, Purdue, and Kansas, Xavier, and Arizona. But let's talk about the Gamecocks and Baylor. We'll hear from Frank Martin, and we'll hear from Scott Drew. But, you know, I know the line is tight, and looking at these two teams, the major thing that stands out between them, in my eyes, statistically, is Baylor shoots it better, generally speaking. Baylor's a very good rebounding team as well. But defensively, South Carolina stands out and is capable of shutting down another team's offense, especially from behind the arc. So there are strengths both ways. You cannot expect South Carolina to go out and shoot 20 of 28 from the floor like they did in the second half against Duke. That was maybe a once-in-the-season kind of half. But if they can be in the 42 to 45% range, play their defense, force the turnovers like they did against Duke, and stay out of foul trouble, then I think they can advance to the Elite Eight.
Well, you know, the key point is they got to have offense. Normally they're going to pack their defense. Everybody talk about the last few games where the pressure just getting in the tournament. They're in the tournament now. You can see by their body language in the first two games that they seem to be playing more relaxed. But, you know, if you get around the 40% with the defense, they're in any ball game. Now, if they shoot exceptionally well, they can destroy anybody. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of offense they get. And if they get the same contributions off the bench that they got in the first two games they had in Greenville.
I think you're exactly right about that. Bench scoring will be important because Baylor has a good bench. They rely a lot on their bench for minutes and for scoring. And so, you know, South Carolina is going to have to counter your bench. K-Mac, if you're Frank Martin, you want to be able to go to your bench at your choice and put your guys into the game to fit certain situations. What you don't want to have to do is have to substitute because of foul trouble. And, of course, when we talk about South Carolina along those lines, we're thinking first and foremost about Chris Silva. It's so important for them tomorrow night to keep him on the floor and get a good 30 minutes out of him.
Yeah, no question about it. They don't have a deep bench. They've had some guys step up, but Frank Martin doesn't have a huge rotation, and he's going to go with the guys that he trusts. I would imagine that Sindarius Thornwell won't come off the court's much, if any. I would imagine that he's going to get the 38 minutes or so that he's been getting. But somebody else is going to have to step up. It can't just be the Sindarius Thornwell show. He's going to get his, as he probably expects and has done all season. But who else is going to step up around him? Is P.J. Dozier going to have another big game? Can Dwayne Notice knock down some shots? If Dwayne Notice is kind of like the canary in the mine for the Gamecocks. If he reaches double figures, that's usually a very good sign for the Gamecocks. If he's hitting some outside shots and he's scoring in double figures, good omen for the Gamecocks.
Well, the interesting thing about South Carolina, and you talking about Sindarius Thornwell, when you get to this point, Corn, 7 or 8 guys, that's your bench because you get those extra timeouts in the tournament, and that gives you a little rest period. The key point, though, is Sindarius Thornwell can play the point. He's going to be stronger than most of your point guards and bigger. He could take a guy down low. You put him at power forward, he may not be the biggest guy, but he's very strong, and he's quick off the dribble than any of the other power forwards that are going to guard him. So where they may not have a deep bench, they have a knight on the chessboard, and they can play him in different situations to keep defenses off balance.
All right, our phone number tonight is 800-956-7266. Love to get your thoughts on how you think it's going to play out tomorrow night at 7:30 here in New York at Madison Square Garden. 800-956-7266. Let's go ahead and get to the calls. I want to get to as many calls as we mixed in with everything else that we have going on. We might talk to a person or two here at the Mason Jar. In fact, well, a legend is here, an NBA Hall of Famer, Alex English, of course, the former Gamecock great, is in town following his team. Casey Manning is here, the color analyst for the Gamecock Radio Network. So we do have a couple of distinguished former Gamecocks here in the mix among the Gamecock fans who are here. Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston before we get to our first break tonight. We encourage your phone calls. Glenn, how do you think the Gamecocks are going to fare tomorrow night against the Bears?
Oh, man. By my faith, I have faith that they will win. They will do fine. Thornwell's going to be like a mad dog, and he's going to score like nothing. And Baylor's going down in defeat because this is their time. I like their confidence level. This is what they needed. They needed confidence. Baylor might be too overconfident, just like Duke. And I think that's going to be to their end. And I'm with Carolina all the way, and Frank Martin, he's great, and he's got them at right place, and I think they're going on. I think they'll advance.
All right, very good. It's just so unique to be talking about South Carolina basketball at this stage of the tournament, that they're still in it. Talking about the men, of course, that they're still in it, and that they indeed do have a legitimate chance to move forward in this thing, get to the Elite Eight, and then if you can get to that game on Sunday against either Florida or Wisconsin, I mean, anything can happen at that point. You're only a jump shot away to get to the Final Four in Phoenix. So very exciting times for Gamecock basketball. Anybody else feeling the way Glenn does? 800-956-7266. Love to hear from you. Back in a moment. We are back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We're at the Mason Jar in New York City, not too far from Madison Square Garden. This place is located at the corner of 30th and Park, and actually the garden stretches over to 31st Street, but it's several avenues, about 5 or 6 avenues away from here, about a 6-block walk, which wasn't too bad here in the late afternoon. Better than hopping a cab and fighting the traffic. And the weather today was much nicer. It was pleasant today in New York City, probably in the 40s, but the wind was nowhere nearly as bad as it was yesterday. So good day outside, good day inside. My first trip back in the Madison Square Garden since South Carolina made its run to a couple of NIT championships. I think you've been up here. Mm-hmm. You've been up here since, because K-Mac, didn't you, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you cover Clemson? Did you cover Clemson when they played for the NIT championship?
Yeah, I don't know if they played for the championship or they did play for the there with Clemson when that was a Purnell year, certainly. But that building, when you walk in, place. I mean, people talk about it, but when you walk in that building, it grabs you right away.
Yeah, and the improvements are outstanding. I mean, they have modernized it totally. When I was here back in the early last decade, I mean, it was, well, let's just say it's much more modern looking now, the way the seating is, the way they cleared out staircases and the overhangs, and just a much better arena from a viewing standpoint, completely modernized technology-wise. It's the world's most famous arena, and you know, they do things in a even I don't know who this person was, but even the guy that was moderating the press conference did a little introduction, like he might be a radio announcer here in New York. I'm not sure, but he was doing his best radio voice introduction, welcoming us to the world's greatest arena as we began the press conference. You know, normally you just sit down, say who's coming up on the set, and do your questions and answers, but he was really into doing his radio thing, so to speak, in front of us. It's marvelous to be there. There was a hockey game last night between the Rangers and the Islanders, and the good thing is the place doesn't smell like beer like it used to. We were there before.
Wait.
For the NIT after this hockey game.
Why is that a good thing? What's wrong with the smell of beer?
Well, I mean, the stench of the stench. Well, the smell of the Flav fresh beer is good. The stench of stale beer is not good, and that's what it used to smell like. Didn't smell like that today. Of course, I wasn't up in the stands, so that was maybe that's why. Looking forward to tomorrow night, seeing how everything comes together for the Gamecocks. Our phone number, 800-956-7266. K-Mac, what about the Pat Kelsey story today and the about-face by the Winthrop coach?
Man, this is bizarre. News of the weird. Pat Kelsey earlier this week, as we reported, took the UMass job, accepted it, was announced by the school, was going to be formally introduced today at a press conference. Fans were ushered in. Media was ushered in, and then shortly thereafter, they were all asked to leave. Pat Kelsey had asked to be released from his agreement, and UMass accepted, and it now appears, I mean, it hasn't been 100% confirmed, but all indications are that Kelsey has had a change of heart, called the decision, and is going to return to Rock Hill and reclaim his post with the Eagles. Greg Marshall, or he pulled a Bobby Crimmins, or he pulled John Kress. Yes. There's something about coaches with South Carolina, the state of South Carolina ties, that have a hard time making up their mind.
This is the second one. This is the second boomerang for Winthrop. Somebody suggested that they rename the nickname from the Eagles to the Boomerangs.
You know, I'm not 100% sure. Are we 100% sure he's going back to Winthrop? Because one of them suggested that with the Georgetown job opening today, and they fired John Thompson III after 13 years, with that job opening up today, this person was suggesting that's why Kelsey pulled out of UMass with an eye towards the G-Town job.
Yeah, well, the Xavier job was another one that the Xavier coach left. There's a lot of dominoes, but the athletic director at UMass, Ryan Bamford, he indicated that his impression was that he was returning to Winthrop. That has not been 100% confirmed. I'm waiting for the Rock Hill people to confirm that. But Pete Thamel from Sports Illustrated has cited sources and said that he's going to return to Winthrop. But nothing would shock us at this point. It's just crazy.
Well, okay.
I'm just
Duke, the repercussions of losing to South Carolina continue. You know, they couldn't handle that defeat. We saw where Tatum announced for the NBA, and now Chase Jeter, a sophomore reserve big man, he's transferring out of Duke. Native of Las Vegas, played in 16 games this season. So the Duke program looks like it's falling apart.
Well, I'm just thinking
coming apart at the seams.
I'm just thinking about Pat Kelsey again. I'm trying to check and see if Miami of Ohio filled their vacancy after they got rid of John Cooper. And, of course, Kelsey is a Ohio guy. I guess he's from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if there's a job in Ohio.
Is UMass a better job than Winthrop at this point? I mean, maybe more money.
Obviously, it's a better league. I don't know what his contract deal is. Better league.
Yeah. The A10.
So people look. These coaches, by and large, they want to move up from the Big South if they can, coming off a hot season, and he's had a couple of those at Winthrop. So you got to strike while the iron is hot, and you want to try and climb that ladder into the next level of conference play if you can. And the Big South, of course, in basketball is well down in terms of the conference rankings, and there's not much they can do about it. They are what they are there, and they're always going to be a one-bid league and nothing else. And let in those one-bid leagues with your career. You can have just ask King Rice. You can have great regular seasons and mess up in your conference tournament and never get the chance to show the nation what you can really do. And let's face it, basketball it's just become where the NCAA tournament is all that matters. It's all that you're you can have, and Frank Martin talked about that today. You can have just an average season, lose 10 or 11 games in the regular season, but win your tournament games and you're looked at as a great coach with a great team and a great year. And it's just funny how basketball is viewed in that manner. Of course, you play more games. Football, of course, you don't get that kind of benefit. 1 or 2 losses and you're done as far as national consideration is thought about. But just the way basketball is these days, and I guess if you're a coach, that's good and bad. I mean, you get evaluated to some degree by your whole body of work, but we all know it's these guys that get it done in March are the ones that move forward.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about going this, and when Davidson, you may, if you're Winthrop, want to think big. You may stay at Winthrop, build that program, and everybody thought when Davidson jumped all the way to the A10, they were going to lose their shirt, and they came in that first year and darn near won the thing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these small schools thinking, hey, we can jump into a big basketball conference.
I know we're coming up on a break, so I'll squeeze this in, but I want to throw this out there and get your guys' opinion. Callers can chime in on this too. We talked about it earlier in the week, Corn, about where this victory stacks up among the all-time greats in South Carolina, not just basketball, but in general, what this run means for them. I think it's a program changer. But now you see what's happened just today. Frank Martin's on Good Morning America, Dan Patrick, all these stories being written about him. I'm not sure they've ever had a moment in athletics, even in football when they won the SEC East and baseball with the national championships, where they have received this much national exposure, this much positive press for one of their programs. I can't think of a time that's happened recently.
Yeah, think what happens if they can get another win on Friday night. All right, we'll continue. More calls coming up. Frank Martin coming up here on Sports Talk from the Mason Jar. Thursday night. We come to you from the Mason Jar in New York City, in Manhattan. We're here with the Gamecock crowd. A lot of Gamecocks have showed up here. This is the home of the Gamecocks in New York City. They gather to watch the Gamecocks on television. They gather to talk about the Gamecocks. They gather to listen to sports talk about the Gamecocks when we're doing that. And they go over to Gamecock events when they are in the area. A lot of these folks will be heading over to Madison Square Garden tomorrow night to watch the Gamecocks take on Baylor at 7:30, 7:29 officially is the tip-off time. Now, our phone number, 800-956-7266. Taking your calls, getting your opinions on how South Carolina will fare tomorrow night against Baylor. We'll bring up. And, I didn't pick the Gamecocks to beat Duke. But, they convinced me with that performance that they indeed are one of the 16 top teams playing right now. I mean, that's kind of stupid to say that since that's what the tournament's all about. But, you don't get here by accident. You just don't luck your way into the Sweet 16. You might luck your way and accidentally get by in round one. Okay, that's why we see a 15 beat a 2 from time to time, a 14 beat a 3. But now getting to this stage, you got to be for real, and you got to have that thing going for you at this stage. And Baylor's got the same thing. So that being said, I'm picking the Gamecocks in the mild upset. They're only 3.5-point underdogs. I'm picking the Gamecocks to win tomorrow night at 8 and set our hair on fire. Anybody with me?
Whoa, slow your roll, Corn. Slow your roll.
Well, let me throw this stat out at you. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's been 4 times when a seed that's been, a team that's been seeded 5 or higher has upset Duke in the tournament. Once Duke is upset, none of those lower-ranked teams has won the next game, which tells me that this South Carolina team may have the coach that can pull it off, in that Martin doesn't seem to be the type of coach that'll allow his team to mentally relax. Most of the times you conquer Duke, you think that's it, and you may come into the game either with your guard down or just, I guess, subliminally you relax. I think this team still is hungry. And again, I'm going to go back to Sindarius Thornwell, who did not get his chance to play on that floor against Seton Hall. And let's face it, with each time he steps on that floor, he is easing himself into the first round of the NBA draft.
Yeah. He looked very comfortable out there in the shoot-around today, knocking down a lot of shots. I tell you, Felder, watching him in the shoot-around, even though he doesn't shoot that much, it's basically a standstill set shot. He puts nice rotation on the ball. The ball comes off his hand really, really sweet. And you can tell he's kind of a pure shooter. I know he's got a jump shot in his resume. We just see more of a set shot situation with him. Martin coming up in just a little bit. Let's go to Pat, who is with us up in Greenville tonight. Welcome into Sports Talk, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Wish I was in New York with you, but I can't pull that off. So I'm just going to have to root it. My question has to do with something that K-Mac said a little earlier. He was talking about that to him that the real canary in the mine was Dwayne Notice, and I agree that he's going to have to come up big along with Dozier. But if you listen to those guys talking today in the media, they're saying they're devising a defense that's going to be tailor-made to stop Thornwell. Mm-hmm. So, if he tries to crash the boards, I think they're going to come along with him in a man-to-man, and they're going to play him outside. So, to me, with those two big guys that are inside, if they control the inside, it's over. So, to me, it's Chris Silva. If he has a double-double again, I think Carolina could very easily, or not easily, but could walk away with a win. I'd like to get your guys' opinion.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, Silva is so important, and you kind of hope that he can stay relaxed. He's back in his American hometown area. He was from New Jersey when South Carolina recruited him. But you know who else is important is Coacher. They need him to be physical and stay on the court as well, because Baylor's got 3 guys in the 6'10" to 7-foot category. And, of course, Jonathan Motley is an All-American player averaging 17 points per game and almost 10 rebounds per game. He's kind of like Thornwell, guys. He's going to get his, no doubt about it, unless you can get fortunate and get him into foul trouble. What you got to do is not let the supporting cast step up and contribute in a big way. Just kind of concede that Motley is going to get his points and rebounds. Just don't let somebody else come up with a big night offensively to augment what he's doing.
Well, the key point is what Baylor likes to do is, even if you got their big men covered up, they love to throw it inside and kick it back out for a guy for a standstill 3. That's been their motive with Scott Drew. I think probably when you talk about big men corn, we look at it more in the NBA than we do in college. But I will say this. Yes, height is a factor in basketball, but so is strength. And it's not only a vertical game, it's a horizontal game. And what I mean by that is, if Thornwell gets into one of their big men, and their big men are tall, but they're not thick. So if you get in their kitchen, he can still power over guys taller than he is. That's the key to his game, which makes him so dangerous, is he can go in among the trees and you see maybe on his arm, but that thing is on the backboard and it's going into the hole because he can draw contact and play through it. And that'll be the key. You just don't ward off going into the trees. K-Mac, you go into their chest because of whatever
Not
shot.
me. I jack up an ill-advised 3.
A shot block.
There.
What a shot blocker does not like is somebody in their chest because they don't have the length to reach out and block their shot. So he has that ability to get in their chest.
But the caller makes a good point that Baylor is going to throw everything they can to stop Thornwell and say, we're going to make somebody else on South Carolina's squad beat us. That's why if you're PJ Dozier, big game for you, Felder at the guard spot, because it is a guard's game, and I get it. I mean, Silva is their most consistent and best big man, so he needs to, stay out of foul trouble, because what he can do defensively is huge. What he gives you offensively is fine, but rebounding and defense is what he's out there to do. Kotsar has to continue to play well. It's so tough. It's a thin margin of error right now, Corn, and I'm just not convinced that the Gamecocks are going to be able to sustain what they had in Greenville. It's been such a whirlwind week for them. They have been the Cinderella story. Are they going to be able to handle this big stage in the mecca of college basketball? One thing about Baylor is at least they've been on this stage before. They kind of know the drill. They've made deep runs in the tournament before. South Carolina has not.
Yeah, it's their 4th straight trip to the Sweet 16. So you're right. They're used to the spotlight here. And that's a good question. How is South Carolina going to handle everything? But, they took a couple of shots in the games last week from Marquette and Duke, respectively. Each of those teams delivered what could have been a knockout punch in the first half, and the Gamecocks did not allow that to determine the game. In fact, they turned around and dominated the second half in both of those games. So I think they're kind of, prepared for whatever Baylor might throw at them and realize that, hey, they're going to have their runs and do some good stuff, but they have showed the determination, the backbone to withstand that, bounce back, and win a ball game. All right, we'll continue. More sports talk from the Mason Jar in New York in a moment. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday night. Phil Kornblut here in New York. The guys are back in Columbia. 800-956-7266 is the phone number here on Sports Talk. If you want to jump in on the phone lines, are the Gamecocks advancing? Are the Gamecocks coming home this weekend? Love to hear from you. Love to get your thoughts on what the Gamecocks are going to be doing moving forward. Coming up in just a moment, we're going to hear from Gamecock coach Frank Martin. Want to remind you, very important that we remind you from our friends at South Carolina Forestry Commission. Insects and diseases, they can be moved hundreds of foot in threatened forests and campsites, neighborhoods, state and national parks. You can help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. More movefirewood.org. Shout out to our good friends at News 19 in Columbia. I hate, but he doesn't have many friends, and I think if we call him a good friend, it'll make him feel good. So Reggie Anderson, News 19, he's here working hard, just doing some live shots. I think he just had the camera pointed at yours truly, showing the world of, the Columbia area at least, what we look like here at the. And I see a crew from News Channel 10 is here as well from Columbia. So everybody's turning out at the Mason Jar for all the good fun. Frank Martin today, busy day for him on his 51st. Met with the media in the formal setting. Then we got with him with some other reporters outside the locker room in sort of a group gaggle format to get his thoughts about being in the Sweet 16 and trying to move his team forward. And he was asked about the way they attacked Duke's zone in last Sunday's game and putting 65 points on the board in the second half, which surprised a lot of people. But, maybe he wasn't too surprised by what they did.
Going to that zone, something that we do pretty consistently. We did it up when we played Syracuse at the Barclays. We sometime, I can't remember when it was, about maybe 14 minutes to go in the game, we went to the zone, and that's what closed out the game for us. And that zone came through for us again against Duke on Sunday.
And then grading the style points that you do, the calling ball screens, diving for loose balls. You commented about how you made free throws as you always do. Did it just grade significantly better those two games than it had in the 9 before when you guys had kind of been scuffling a little bit?
Our team defense has been ranked number 1 in the country most of the year.
I mean, overall, both ends of the court. Just in general.
What we did is the ball went in the basket. When the ball goes in the basket, all of a sudden it's like winning and losing at this time of the year. It's like the ball goes in the basket, you run great offense. So sometimes the ball goes in the basket, and as a coach, you're home mad because you didn't run offense the way it's supposed to be run. And other times you run it perfect, and that thing just will not go in. And I couldn't ask these kids to have played the game better, more to the way that we've tried to build it than what they have.
But dealing with Baylor's size, you talked about that earlier in the week, but now that you had a chance to prepare for them, what's kind of in your mind about how to deal with it?
Yeah, we got to get those big away from the rim. If you don't get their bigs away from the rim, then rebounding becomes real hard, and scoring at the rim becomes real hard. You have to drag them away from the rim, and in order to do that, you got to beat their zone in transition. You have to offensively. Everyone thinks when you say shoot the ball well, we're talking about threes. It's not just threes. You got to make some elbow shots. You got to make some shots from the nail. You got to make some short corner shots to drag those bigs away from the rim. Then you can score at the rim, and then you can offensive rebound. But they're a problem.
The fact that at least some of your guys have faced the Baylor zone defense, which is kind of hard to go against. You faced in the Big 12. Does that give you a little bit of an edge having seen that before and your players having seen that before?
Well, what's helping us right now to prepare for this zone is we played Michigan, who played a 1-3-1, and we played Syracuse earlier this year, right. The Syracuse zone morphs to your offense. The Baylor zone morphs to your offense. And understanding how we attack those zones and also preparing Marquette. They played a 1-3-1 kind of 2-3 matchup. We had to prepare for that. I was real happy the way we attacked Marquette zone. I was happy how we attacked Michigan and Syracuse. We've tried to kind of relive that with our guys this week in practice.
All right, some comments from Frank Martin. More to come from Martin in a little bit as we continue to break down the Gamecocks against Baylor. We'll also hear from Scott Drew, head coach of the Baylor team, and what a job he has done with this program. Baylor, guys, it's the Baylor athletic program is a real interesting case study. When you think about over the last, let's say, 20 years, the things that both their football team and their men's basketball program, the things they have gone through. In basketball, the program was literally left for dead because a player murdered somebody and they tried to cover it up. And we know about all the stuff that's happened with their football program in the last couple of years. It's pretty amazing that program's able to just even stand on its own 2 feet and do anything considering all the controversy. I mean, and we're talking real. This isn't just recruiting stuff and things of that nature. We're talking major humanitarian issues.
Well, it's not only that. Remember, he killed a teammate. That was 2 teammates and one murdered the other. They tried to cover it up. But this is a resilient school. The Texas former governor was able to pull her weight and get it into the Big 12 when the South imploding. And so it's been very resilient over the past few years. And yeah, the football program, I think it's gonna take a blow for 2 or 3 years and maybe some shakeup in their administration. But the basketball team, both men and women, have been consistent the last 5 or 6 years, and it's they're almost a microcosm of what South Carolina has done with their men's and women's basketball.
All right, a couple of other notes. Former USC defensive end linebacker Boosie Whitlow is going to take a visit to Louisville. This was in the Louisville newspaper, the Courier-Journal. The defensive line coach there, L.D. Scott, recruited Whitlow out of high school. That's one that really amazes me. Boosie Whitlow as a freshman was really, really good. Why could he not play at the same level for this coaching staff, the Muschamp group? Why did he just totally fall off the radar?
Was he really, really good? I mean, he played sparingly. He was kind of a tweener, a little small for defensive end, couldn't really play linebacker, and some guys just don't fit with the new system. Maybe he was having a hard time at practice. Maybe he was having a hard time buying in to the new coaching staff and what they wanted done. And sometimes guys just have to move on and go somewhere else to find their place. Doesn't mean he's not a good football player, won't be, but sometimes even good football players have to go somewhere else to be good football players.
Yeah. Well, the last defensive end USC passed on, who ended up going to Louisville, did okay for himself, a guy named Lorenzo Malden. I think he became an All-American.
That was a little different,
though.
Draft he wasn't on campus, but that was just Steve Spurrier and his staff doing what they did. Yeah,
they kind of did him dirty. And Brandon McElwain has taken a visit to California now. So let's see, he's been to Cal and he's been to what was the other place he's been to? He's been somewhere else out there.
Wasn't Baylor looking
for
at
his
him
new
too?
Home.
Because Rule.
I don't remember Baylor.
Yeah, because Rule.
Oh, you're right.
When he was at Temple, recruited him when he was at Temple.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't think that's where he visited. I want to say he went to somewhere out west. Was it Arizona? Arizona State? Anyway, he visited Cal as he continues to look for a new home. All right, we're going to hit the break here, top of the hour. We will give you recruiting, of course, even though it's a lot of basketball going on. We're keeping an eye on recruiting. We'll be back with that and more. Sports Talk from the Big Apple and Columbia.
Kevin McCrary and Tom Hayes.
See, I got to experience all this stuff at K-State, and it's all I've ever talked to our players about. I don't tell them about anything other than I'm just telling you. See,
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Cornbury and Tom Hayes.
We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from the Mason Jar in New York City. You know, you always kind of feel important when you say you're in New York City. But you know what? Walking around this fine city, visiting some of the neighborhoods where I grew up in my youth, I realized that they're no different than we are. They're just people. The media in New York, you know, you think they're all this sort of great stuff. They're slobs just like the rest of us. They don't look any better than we do. They don't ask any better questions than we do. They suck up to the coaches just like a lot of the people down here do, with the exception of us, of course. So, I mean, honestly, K-Mac, I don't see what the big deal is.
You don't see what the big deal is?
Of New York, of just being in New York and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just like being in I could be doing the show in West Pels or feel the same way.
No different.
Well, you got to remember that when you look at sports in New York, two of the most historic broadcasters in New York history, Red Barber for the Dodgers, and what was the other guys? Mel Allen.
Mm-hmm.
They were both Southerners, but one was an Alabama guy and the other one was from Florida.
I love that city. It's the real deal. It's as advertised, as they say, Corn. If you don't like New York, I get not everybody likes the big city life, and I don't know that living there would necessarily be ideal, but in terms of just spending some time walking, being a part of that's something special.
Yeah, I was talking to Bill de Blasio just a little while ago before I came in here, the mayor, and he was disappointed that you didn't make it back up here for this event.
Yeah, I'm sure he was. Yeah, de Blasio and I are very tight. We've worked on some policy ideas together. We kick things around from time to time, but I'll be up there later to hang out with him.
All right. 800-956-7266
I just
is our
call him
phone
Blas.
number. What do you think?
He's just Blas to me.
You just call him Blas?
Yeah.
What do you think about the Gamecocks' chances tomorrow night? We'll get more into that, hear more from Frank Martin, hear from the Baylor side of things as well. Winthrop has just put out a statement that Pat Kelsey is remaining as the coach. So I'm assuming that he's given them his word. He's not going after any other job. Certainly now he wouldn't do that after Winthrop is taking him back and saying that he is returning as their coach. So, you know, he'll have to live with the little jokes made about him, just like Greg Marshall does and Bobby Crimmins did. Not that they really care what people say, but Pat Kelsey doing the old flip-flop today on the University of Massachusetts, deciding not to go up there and come back to Winthrop.
Decommitment. It happens all the time in recruiting.
The only thing that scares you, Corn, is when we've seen these guys do this, some take a temporary hit in recruiting because it's used against them. You don't know if that guy's going to be there. He's already decided he's going to set his foot somewhere else, and then he comes back. So it'll be interesting to see how he recovers, really putting the team together, if he can survive this. Because every time I've seen coaches do this, they take a temporary hit in recruiting for about a year or two.
Yeah. You know, I imagine that the fan base there and the administration, they understand where they are in the food chain of college basketball. I mean, you know, Pat Kelsey's done a wonderful job for them since taking over. He's made them the best team in the Big South now here. You know, they really had good teams but couldn't win the tournament when Coastal was winning those tournaments down at Coastal. They had good teams then, so they've been good for a little while. And they understand, look, he's a young guy. He's not going to spend his entire coaching career at Winthrop. Okay, that's not his – I'm sure that's not his goal. And so they probably are just glad to have him back for at least another year, see if he can get him back to the tournament, pull off a miracle and win a game, and then go on to something bigger and better. But they certainly understand where they fit into the grand scheme of things, I would think. They're not going to be mad at it. They understand how this works.
And, of course, it's going to be a big bump in pay, and they would hire on just like anything else on their pay scale, and then they'll just be happy to get the next up-and-comer who could turn them around and have success if that person moves up in the food chain, as you say.
All right, our poll question on our website, sportstalksc.com. How far will USC, the men, go now? Sweet 16, the end of the road, the Elite Eight, the Final Four, the championship game. So far, about 44% say the Gamecocks will win tomorrow night and make it to the Elite Eight. 23% say they're done after tomorrow night. 21% say they're going to make the Final Four, and KMAC, 31 very brave voters say the Gamecocks will make it to the championship game.
Wow. There'll be 31 people that will have massive bragging rights if they do it. Stranger things have happened. We saw George Mason make it to the Final Four. I mean, these things can happen, and when you get to this level and you knock off Duke, and if they can sustain, there's a lot of ifs in there, but that's the beautiful thing about the NCAA tournament. That's the beautiful thing about the postseason, especially in basketball where it's just one and done. Let's face it, if the Gamecocks had to play a 3-game series, 7-game, 5-game, 3-game series, even with Duke, they might have had their hands full winning another one to win that series. But they got it done. Baylor's a toss-up, and after that, if they play Florida, they beat Florida. Wisconsin will be tough. You just never know. But I don't think they're going to win on Friday. I don't know that I've said that yet, but I just don't have a good feeling for the Gamecocks. I think the clock is going to strike midnight on Friday for the Gamecocks. The Chariot will turn back into
Debbie
a pumpkin.
Downer.
That's me.
Debbie Downer KMAC. That's what we call them around here. Let's go to Columbia for our next phone call. Dale, welcome into Sports Talk tonight. How are you?
I'm doing great, Phil, guys. I'm going to go on the record, as the old show used to be on Fox, but on the record with Greta Van Susteren, and I'm saying the Chickens will win it all. The entire thing. We've already won it in baseball at Coastal, football at Clemson. Why not win it in basketball with the Gamecocks here in Columbia? They will have all 3 major sports.
And let's put the icing on the cake and throw the USC women in there as well. What if?
Oh boy, I love it when Cora starts a statement. What if? This ought to be good.
What if that were to happen? What if the state of South Carolina possessed all 4 of those trophies at the same time? Now, how cool would that be?
That would be very cool, actually.
I mean, it could happen. Listen, the Cubs won.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavaliers won.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, Trump won.
Yeah.
I mean, it could happen.
Anything can happen, man.
Exactly.
It's been
all right, guys.
You win when you lose.
Thank you. It's been the year of anything out of the night happen in sports and in life, and we're certainly seeing that. So, I mean, look, the Gamecocks are going to have to play another terrific game tomorrow night. Not just a half. They're going to have to put together a complete game. They're going to, if they fall behind, they're going to have to try to keep in touch with Baylor and then try and do these tournament games that they've played in. It'd be ideal for them if they could get off to a good start, not have to battle from behind. Baylor has been a good come-from-behind team this year. They've got several notable wins in which they had to come from behind in the second half. So, in thinking more about it, too, I mean, one thing South Carolina is going to have to do well is protect defensive glass. They have got to make sure that they don't get killed giving up offensive rebounds to Baylor's big guys. And that would be a bonus for them if they're able to do that. All right, break is coming up. More from Martin. Recruiting coming up. We've got our DNR ticket giveaway coming up as well. My goodness, so much to do here on Sports Talk from New York and Columbia. Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from New York tonight. We're over at the Mason Jar. Great place. 30th Street and Park Avenue. Learned a little something about getting around New York. And that, let's see, the streets run east-west and the avenues run north-south. Is that right? I think that's right. Very easy to get around if you know where you're going. But if you walk along the avenues, very long blocks. If you walk along the streets, the blocks are much shorter.
Yeah.
You can kind of envision that in your mind. So I walked over here. I came out on the 7th Avenue side at 32nd Street, so only had to walk over 2 blocks and up about 6 or 7 blocks. Wasn't too bad. Recruiting coming up in just a moment and more from Frank Martin, and also we'll hear from Baylor's coach as well. The Gamecocks, of course, we'll hear from Chad Holbrook too, because the Gamecock baseball team getting ready for a big weekend against Alabama. They won last night 3-0. So the Gamecocks hit it out of the park last night at Founders Park, and Founders is also hitting it out of the park. Founders Federal Credit Union's new office at the Commons at Bull Street in Columbia is opening soon. In the meantime, visit their on-campus ATMs at the Russell House. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Recruiting now. Even in the Big Apple, there is recruiting going on. USC sending out an offer in the 2018 class to quarterback Tyler Shock. It's pronounced Shock, S-H-O-U-G. 6'5", 195 out of Chandler, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix adjacent to Tempe, the home of Arizona State. Last season, he passed for 2,079 yards and 27 touchdowns. The Gamecocks, the first big-time program to offer. Then Stanford, Cornell, San Jose State, Hawaii, and Western Kentucky also have offered. He said he was super to get the offer because it kind of came out of nowhere. He said his interest level in USC is high. He would love to go there. He loves the location, the coaches, the football tradition. And they said they loved his film, and they're looking for an athletic quarterback who can throw the ball. And so he's excited to get to know South Carolina and to visit, and they're working on a visit date. He's been to Arizona State and Nebraska, and he also plans to visit Harvard and Western Kentucky. USC offered running back Levante Valentine of Melbourne, Florida, and immediately moved to the top of his list, joining Florida and Oregon. He said they love his speed and that he will be able to run track and play football. And that's very exciting to him. He's a track guy, and he has a lot of family in South Carolina in the Columbia, Edgefield, and Trenton areas. He said the offer from USC, his interest in the Gamecocks on a scale of 1 to 10 is at least an 11. He plans to visit Florida. He has run a 10.44 100 meters, third best in Florida this spring. He rushed for 890 yards last season. USC also offered defensive back Derek Turner of St. Francisville, Louisiana. Auburn and Kansas State are 2 other Power 5 conference offers to him. He says he likes the Gamecocks. He's always liked Muschamp. He said that Muschamp loves his film, and he can't believe that, as he put it, the big school close to him hasn't offered him. And he likes that he's versatile and physical. He has visited LSU, Tulane, and TCU. And upcoming, he'll visit Auburn, Kansas State, and Louisiana Tech. He'll visit USC sooner than later, he said. Defensive end Xavier Thomas of Florence, an IMG Academy in Florida, was at USC this morning to watch the Gamecocks in their spring practice. And he tweeted out, quote, "Always nice to be back in Columbia. We'll be back for the spring game. Hope Williams-Brice is rocking," end quote. He was at USC earlier this month on a bus trip with teammates. He plans, as I mentioned, to take in the Gamecock spring game on April 1st. Defensive lineman Dantrell Barkley, Independence Junior College, Kansas, has set an unofficial visit to USC for June 9th. USC coaches plan to visit him at Independence on April 18th. He's also going to visit Colorado and NC State. USC and Clemson target defensive lineman Darnell Jeffries of Covington, Georgia, was offered by Ohio State and Memphis. Tight end John Fitzpatrick of Atlanta was offered by Tennessee and Appalachian State. He's a USC target. USC today offered athlete Braylon Williams of Lawrenceville, Georgia. Offensive lineman Jackson Carman of Fairfield, Ohio, will visit Clemson on Monday. And in basketball, 6'4" Sharon Wright Jr. of West Florence picked up an offer from Texas Tech. He also has Clemson and USC offers. There you go with the recruiting report from the Big Apple. And, of course, you can find it on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and on Twitter. Use the hashtag STRecruiting. Now, more Frank Martin as the Gamecocks worked out today at Madison Square Garden, had a little shoot-around, met with the media, getting ready for Baylor tomorrow night. And the Gamecocks, of course, riding high off their 2 wins in Greenville. Feeling good about things, feeling good about the way they played offensively. But, this is all new to the players being in the Sweet 16, but not to Martin. And he's trying to share that experience, the fact that he's been to the Sweet 16 before, trying to share that knowledge with his players.
See, I got to experience all this stuff at K-State, and it's all I've ever talked to our players about. I don't tell them about anything other than I'm just telling you. I want you guys to experience what I've experienced. Being a part of this tournament is something that sticks with you for the rest of your life. And last year, when that team didn't get that opportunity, I was miserable for them. And they handled it better than I did. Those seniors, not last year's seniors, this year's seniors, handled that moment so much better than me. And publicly, I said all the right things. Publicly, in front of the players, I said all the right things. Privately, I was as frustrated as any human being can possibly be. And Sindarius basically is the guy that created the mindset. Listen, we just didn't get it done, man. We got to do better. That's coming off a school record for wins in a season. And that's people always talk about players learning from coaches. Oh, man, learning from a college junior right there.
You say privately you were frustrated. What do you mean? Like, what's an example of your private frustration?
Just exactly what it is. I wasn't happy with the decision that was made. And I'm not into crying, pouting, making excuses. Not my style. It's not who I am. But I'm not going to ever publicly criticize. I joke around with my local guys all the time that I don't criticize people for a living. It's I just don't do that. It's not my DNA. I want to help people. I want to compliment people. I don't want to sit around and say things that jeopardize people's jobs. It's not what I'm about. But privately, in my own home, with my wife, when I spoke to my mom, when I spoke to the guys that raised me, I let them know, man, this ain't right, man. These kids deserve to be there. But being around guys like Thornwell allowed me to understand I got a responsibility here to get them ready for the next opportunity, and it's here, and it's been unbelievable it right now.
You have such a good feel for this program's roots here in New York.
Yes, sir.
Do you ever hear from like John Roach or Cremens or those guys?
Mike Dunn today, he's on the road recruiting, and he called and he said, Frank, killing me because I wasn't coming. I just changed my flight. And I said, Mike, come on, I got you covered. Kevin Joyce texted me. The Duke game had not ended, and I was already getting a text from Kevin Joyce. George Felton, Brian Winters, all those guys. Those guys are phenomenal. And, I remember being a kid. I didn't know them at South Carolina, but watching all those guys play, and here I am, become friends with every one of those guys, and their love for their university is powerful. And here's the other part that excites me too. It's bringing the name Frank McGuire back up a lot, which is so powerful in the game of basketball in this community and also in ours.
And guys, it's taken two big guys. Frank McGuire wasn't necessarily big in stature. He was big in character. Two guys named Frank to get the Gamecocks to national elite status in college basketball. What do you think about that? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, right here in New York City with the Gamecocks at the Mason Jar. Somebody visiting with us right here on the air. We appreciate him coming over. Coming up, we're going to hear from Scott Drew, coach of Baylor, and we're underway in Big 16 action tonight. We've got Michigan and Oregon tied at 16 in the first half of their game. And that's the first game underway tonight. Coming up, we're going to have West Virginia, Gonzaga, Purdue, Kansas, Xavier, all coming up tonight. The first night of the Sweet 16, the second half of the Sweet 16 coming up tomorrow night. Okay, we have got, of course, it's a big weekend back in Columbia. Besides the basketball, don't forget the USC women doing their thing this weekend in Stockton, California. But in Columbia, it's the annual Palmetto Sportsman's Classic put on by DNR and all the good folks over there. Captain Billy Downer. Is he signing autographs? Is he posing for pictures? Is he doing anything with the public?
All the above.
They can reach out and touch him, guys, as far as you know?
Yep. He'll be there signing headshots, I'm sure.
Good. Maybe he'll have one of his deer kills there with him and showing off a big old deer head or something. Anyway, we have got 4 tickets to give you to the Palmetto Sportsman's Classic. Now, I'm in New York City. That I am a Yankees fan. Thus, we're going to take caller, not number 2. We're not going to take caller Derek Jeter. We're not going to take caller Babe Ruth. We're not going to take caller Lou Gehrig. Caller Mickey Mantle. Oh, yeah, the Mick. 800-956-7266. 800-956-7266. The Mickey Mantle caller in wins the tickets. K-Mac, you have any idea what Mickey Mantle's jersey number was?
Mickey Mantle's jersey number?
Don't tell me you don't know. Please, don't tell me you're guessing.
No.
Every red-blooded American boy knows what Mickey Mantle's jersey number was.
I was a red-blooded American Yankee.
Did he wear number 7?
Did he wear number 7? Is the Pope Catholic?
Yeah.
Last time I checked.
Yeah, number 7.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle wore that's like saying to a NASCAR fan, did Dale Earnhardt drive number 3? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He wore number 7. My goodness, what a disconnect in generations.
Well, I gave you the right answer. It just took me a second. I had to think about it. You're going through all these numbers in my head.
The tickets tonight, 800-956-7266. 800-956-7266. The number.
What number did Joe DiMaggio
you'll get a chance to talk to Jarmart. Joe DiMaggio wore number Joe DiMaggio wore number 5.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
I think you were, because I was thinking 5 for Mick at first. And then I remember
no, he was 7.
So I think DiMaggio did wear 5.
He also I think he wore number 5.
No, he wore number 9.
Did wear number 5.
He wore number 9.
No, he wore number 5. No, he wore number 5. I'm looking at it right here.
No, he wore number 9, didn't he?
Garrick wore 4. No, he wore 5.
Oh, yeah, he did wear number 5. You're right. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, he wore number 5, yeah. Yogi Berra wore number 8. I don't know who. Let's see, number 9. Greg Nettles wore number 9 with the Yankees. I don't know. Has number 9 been retired?
It is retired for Roger Maris. That's what I was thinking. Roger Maris wore number 9.
Roger Maris. That's
so,
right.
I mean, there's a lot of numbers in there. But anyway, there we go. That trip down Yankee numerical memory lane.
The guy that Yankee fans berated because he would dare take the spotlight away from the Mick by hitting 61 home runs.
Yeah, that was a tough.
Joe DiMaggio.
They treated him really well.
He wore number 5. He also wore Marilyn Monroe as well.
Oh.
He was also Mr. Coffee.
Anyway.
Mr. Coffee.
Yes, he was. Listen, how many athletes have their names worked in to the lyrics of one of the all-time great songs ever sung? Huh?
Not many people.
K-Mac, you know what song I'm talking about?
Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you.
That song, very good.
Yeah. Cuckoo Cachucorn, I am the walrus. Remember that. I am the walrus.
Simon and Garfunkel. What movie was that from?
The Graduate, of course.
Yes.
Okay, 800-956-7266 if you're trying to get the tickets, unless we've given them away.
I think we've given them away. Yeah, there's still people calling in, but we have given them away.
Okay.
By the way, Corn, I wanted to
caller.
Yeah, I want to drop this line to you. Yeah, the Gamecocks did practice today at Xavier High School. Frank McGuire went to high school.
Sweet. That's pretty good. They could have gone to any number of places in New York City connected to the Gamecocks when you figure McGuire, Kevin Joyce, John Roach. Well, Roach and Owens went to the same school. Tom Riker from Long Island. Gosh, so many of those players from Bobby Crimmins, so many of those players from the 65 to 75 era. Corky Carnival, the Powell brothers, they all came out of New York City. I mean, Frank McGuire, it is just an absolute shame in South Carolina athletic history that Frank McGuire, Jim Carlin, the power battle between those two, the university president, and it just got so nasty, leaving the ACC. It could have been so good. Frank McGuire could have been South Carolina's Dean Smith and continued to coach there as long as his health was good and done all kind of great things. And, he was unceremoniously shown the door in 1980, I think. He just, when they left the ACC, that was a huge, huge recruiting attraction for them, a huge attraction for those New York City ball players. And that dried up, and they made some mistakes with some recruits they brought in who they thought were going to be good, took some transfers that didn't work out. I mean, they were playing a very unattractive schedule that fans just, the Metro Conference or they were in independent status, I think, most of those final years, and it just wasn't attractive. They tried to play, a Marquette here and there, but it just wasn't attractive to people, and eventually the crowd started to dwindle, and the quality of the players started to dwindle, and people want to. What's the truth? Was it McGuire who got it done to get him out of the ACC because he was sick and tired of the ACC politics and always playing second fiddle? Did Clemson stab him in the back? Did they think, was Clemson going to walk with him and then at the 11th hour do a Pat Kelsey and turn around and stay in the league? I mean, there's all kind of stories about that. I don't know what's fact and what's fiction from all that, but the bottom line is those years as an independent just killed the South Carolina basketball program, just wiped it off the map.
Well, yeah, the first couple of years, because they had English and Matthias and Winters and Dunleavy, they got away with it. But after that particular group left, then there was a struggle after struggle. But the interesting thing is, Corn, we never talked about this from a fan standpoint. But one of the things that win against Duke did was wipe away that inferiority complex. When they play the basketball in North Carolina, we never can be as good as Duke down here in the SEC. They don't play that kind of ball. Hearing that from fans lately.
Okay, we continue Sports Talk. South Carolina Radio Network from the Mason Jar in New York City. Congratulations to Gail. Is that Crystal Gail? Just Gail. She won tickets. Creighton and Charlie from Newberry. She won tickets. Jeff Oswald, firefighter. Congratulations. He won tickets. And Michael from Lancaster won tickets. Man, I love giving away other people's money and other people's tickets.
Fun.
That's what I really enjoy doing. Thank you for calling in. We really appreciate it here tonight on Sports Talk. I want to do this before I do that. I want to update the PGA leaderboard. It's a match play championship this weekend, brought to you by Hilton Head Island's RBC Heritage, presented by Boeing. That starts real soon, coming up on April 10th. Be sure to get your tickets now at rbcheritage.com. That's rbcheritage.com. As I mentioned, that's a match play championship taking place this weekend, the World Golf Championships, the Dell Technologies match play. And I'm not going to go over all the winners, but I did see some familiar names. For example, Jordan Spieth won his match today. Bill McGirt was a winner today. Also, Rory McIlroy won his match. Sergio advanced with a win today. Phil Mickelson gets a win. Also, Dustin Johnson picked up a win. He defeated Martin Keimer. That's a big-time matchup. Bill Haas was a winner today as well. So, and Kevin Kisner, who did so well the other week, he won his match, and Bubba won his match as well today in the match play championships. Keep an eye on that going over the weekend. The Masters is coming up quickly, quicker than ever because we've been so tied up with basketball. Masters is really coming up on us quickly, and, of course, the Heritage after that. Be sure to get your tickets for the Heritage. Again, go online at rbcheritage.com to order your tickets. All right. I can only think of one way to I had to bring in somebody that I knew was less intelligent than the three of us. And that can only mean one person. That's Reggie Anderson from News 19 in Columbia.
Hello, Phil. Thank you for the kind words. I can always count on you to keep my ego in check. Anytime I start feeling good about myself, I just listen to you or listen to those kind words, and I'm back to being the insecure TV anchor that I've been for the past 20 years.
Now, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself.
Well, I can't help it. I've only got you bring up the fact that I've got the one eye. I mean, that's a constant, that never gets old, does it?
I only bring that up when I get mad at you. So anyway, I'm glad we could help your ratings tonight. You had a shot of Sports Talk as you were doing a live shot. No, I tell you, you're to be what's the word I'm looking for? Praised. That's a good word for the work you've done up here all day with the Gamecocks. A lot of live stuff. It's not cheap doing live television shots from so far away. I know that, but what have you taken from everything today, being around the Gamecocks, watching the players, the coaches, talking with Alex English and Casey Manning? And what's the feeling you're taking away?
Well, Frank Martin, I'm sure he loves to remind us that, people said they were stumbling down the stretch. Well, all of a sudden they get into the tournament. They don't look like a team that was feeling the pressure. They look like a very relaxed team, and it was almost just get into the tournament, and then we could really see what this team was capable of. And, I mean, I kind of agree with the team. They lost to the Florida team. Arkansas gave tournament, and Alabama did as well. So they weren't, unlike last year when they lost at Missouri, at Mississippi State, two teams they had no business losing to. The losses this year aren't bad losses, and they're playing, again, like a team that's very confident. Maybe has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because maybe they hear you on the radio bashing them for those losses, and they think, you know what, we're going to prove Kornblut wrong.
Well, we do know they listen. I don't know if they are impacted by what we said. But let me ask you this. Basketball, by and large, is about matchups, Some teams you match up well with, some teams you don't. How do you like the matchup here? I mean, this Baylor team's got size inside. They rebound well. I don't know if they're a physical team like South Carolina. I mean, you think the Gamecocks are going to go in there and just try and bump them around and see if they can root them out from inside?
Well, not only that, but Baylor also has a bunch of guys who are like 4th, 5th-year players. That's something else you have to watch out for. But, it's kind of fun, though. It's the old Big 12 matchup in a way between, Frank and Scott Drew. Obviously Baylor being the Big 12, and Frank's a former Big 12 guy. So it could very well end up being a very physical game, and it could be he used to say that if he ever was a football coach, he would run it 3 times. That would be it. We might see a Danny Ford, Citadel Bulldog, Smash Mouth, Mike Ayers type football game in the form of a basketball game at Madison Square Garden.
So, from Reggie Anderson, Newsnight Columbia, despite his good-natured self coming on with us tonight, still the 4th in the tomorrow.
Well, we're statewide in South Carolina, right?
And beyond. We go across the borders. There's no wall that can stop us from crossing borders.
They did not escape with a win over Marquette. The Gamecocks did not escape with a win over Duke. I don't think they're going to escape with a win over Baylor. I think you go over the Gamecocks by 8.
By what?
8.
All right, K-Mac, you heard that. He said Gamecocks by 8.
Homer. He's a homer. He just wants all the Gamecock fans to love him. He can't keep it real.
K-Mac's working tonight. I figured he was too busy aggravating people on Twitter to come into work.
Oh, only you, Reggie.
Oh, a Twitter shot. Thank you, Reggie. Go eat some more. Hey, before we get away, I do want to hear from Scott Drew, the Baylor coach. And here he is today talking about South Carolina and the fact that he's familiar with what he's going to see because he's played teams with coaches against coaches who either coached or knows Martin well. Here are his thoughts.
Well, I think playing Oklahoma State with Brad Underwood, with Andy Kennedy, playing Coach Huggins, those are all similar from the same tree, Coach Huggins' tree. Now, everyone does something a little different, and Taylor makes it to their team and personnel, but the toughness, the rebounding, and the defensive intensity, that's pretty consistent. None of them let you run offense. And hopefully those experiences help us. Doesn't make it a guaranteed that we'll be successful against it, because first time we played West Virginia, I think we tried to set an NCAA record with turnovers. We came up just short. So prepare for. And what really makes it tough is you think, well, you played on Sunday, but really Monday's a rest day. Tuesday you prep, and Wednesday you do, and you don't do much on Thursday, so you don't have a long time to prep and get ready for them.
David Smoke, ESPN Central Texas. After what is your 4th consecutive NCAA trip, 4th Sweet 16 in 8 years, did you need this kind of run to help validate what your program is doing after the last couple of years?
Well, I think you're probably only as good as your last game, no matter what. We started out when you win Elite Eight, Sweet 16, NIT championship, and everybody becomes a little spoiled. You just assume you're going to advance and do well in postseason. Then you lose in the first round twice, and now all of a sudden people are like, well, what's the matter? And with us, I think it's made us just appreciate more each and every win in the NCAA tournament, because it isn't a given. In the first 2 Elite Eights, we lost to the national champions, and we thought, you know what, we win this game, maybe we win this thing. So it shows you we've been close, but I think it's made us appreciate it more, being the 4th time in 8 years.
All right, there you go. Coach from Baylor, Scott Drew, looking forward to the Gamecocks. He kind of thinks they have a little, maybe some insight on what to expect because of what he has seen from other teams. But they've played each other too. Of course, players are different. South Carolina and Baylor had that 2 game when Martin first got there. If I'm not mistaken, in that first game, didn't they play in Columbia and the Gamecocks blow a big lead or something against Baylor? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, something like that. It's interesting. Baylor was #1 for 1 week. And that week, they had to go in that Monday and play West Virginia. And Press Virginia ran them out of the gym. And they weren't #1 anymore. But at least you can say for 1 week or 2 days, for 1 day, Baylor was #1.
They were indeed. All right, that'll do it. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow night from Madison Square Garden, we'll lead you towards tip-off of USC and Baylor. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to the folks here at the Mason Jar for having us. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.